There's a lie people grow up believing that sounds comforting, but turns out to be one of the most dangerous ideas you can carry into adulthood. The lie is that being real will set you free, that honesty is always rewarded, that if you just speak your truth, the right people will stay and the wrong people will leave, and everything will somehow sort itself out. That sounds nice, it just isn't how reality works. Because being real doesn't make life easier, it makes it clearer, and clarity comes at a cost most people aren't prepared to pay. When you are younger, being real is tolerated, sometimes even celebrated. Kids are blunt, teenagers are emotional, young adults are finding themselves. There's space for authenticity, but no one expects stability from you yet. But the moment you enter adult systems, work, social hierarchies, professional environments, long-term relationships, being real stops being charming and starts being threatening. Because adulthood isn't built around truth, it's built around stability. Social circles aren't formed around honesty. They are formed around agreement, around shared illusions, around unspoken rules that keep things comfortable. People bond over what they don't say as much as what they do. And the moment you start saying the quiet parts out loud, you disrupt that comfort. That's usually where it starts. Small moments. You point out something that feels off, you question a dynamic, you don't laugh at the joke everyone else laughs at, you don't play along with the assumption everyone's pretending to believe. You are not aggressive, you are not trying to start anything, you are just not performing. And people feel that immediately. Because when you are real, you become a mirror. And most people do not like what they see reflected back at them. You remind them of the things they are avoiding, the compromises they've made, the truths they buried to fit in. Your honesty highlights their silence. Your boundaries expose their people pleasing. Your refusal to pretend makes their pretending visible. And that creates discomfort. Not because you are wrong, but because you are honest in a world built on quiet agreement. So the reactions start. At first, it's subtle. You are described as intense, too serious, too blunt, you think too much, you read into things, you don't know how to just let things go. Language like that sounds harmless, but it's a warning. It's society telling you that you are stepping outside the acceptance range of self-expression. You might notice people pulling back slightly. Conversations stay shallow, you are included less, invited later, or not at all. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your presence changes the tone of the room. People can't fully relax around someone who isn't pretending. And most social spaces are built around relaxation, not truth. Being real introduces friction, and friction is dangerous in systems that prioritize harmony over honesty. Friendships are often the first casualty, especially long-term ones, because many friendships aren't built on deep alignment. They are built on shared history, shared habits, shared distractions. You drank together, you joked together, you complained together, but you didn't grow together. And when you start changing, start questioning things, you stop bonding the same way. You don't want to gossip. You don't want to perform outrage. You don't want to pretend everything's fine when it isn't. And suddenly, you are the odd one out. Not because you think you're better, but because you are no longer playing the same game. And people take that personally. They feel judged, even if you never judged them. They feel abandoned, even if you are still there. They feel exposed, even if you say nothing about them directly. So they distance themselves, or they criticize you, or they frame your growth as arrogance, as negativity, as ego. You've changed, they say. What that usually means is you are no longer predictable. And unpredictability is threatening. The same thing goes in social circles. Groups have an unspoken emotional contract. You show up, you maintain the vibe, you don't destabilize anything. You don't challenge the group's identity. You don't force anyone to reflect too deeply. You keep things light enough to stay comfortable. Being real breaks that contract. You start asking why certain behaviours are normalised, why certain people are always tolerated, why the same issues keep repeating, why everyone complains but nothing changes, and suddenly you are not fun anymore. You are a problem, a buzzkill, someone who takes things too seriously. And slowly, the group corrects itself by removing you, not aggressively, quietly. You just stop getting invited. Jobs react even faster. Because workplaces don't care about who you are, they care about how well you fit in. And fit in requires suppression. It requires emotional restraint. It requires knowing when not to speak, knowing how to disagree without actually disagreeing, knowing how to be honest without being honest. When you are real at work, you don't just risk conflict, you risk exposing power. You question decisions, you point out inconsistencies, you refuse to fake enthusiasm. You don't blindly align. Even if you are calm and respectful, you become dangerous, because systems run on compliance, not truth. So you are labelled. Not incompetent, not lazy, but difficult. Not a team player, not aligned, not a good cultural fit. And those labels stick. Once you are seen as someone who can't be managed easily, your days are numbered. Not immediately, not obviously, but quietly. You are passed over, marginalised, managed out, because being real threatens the illusion of control, and no system willingly keeps someone who reminds others that the rules are made up. This is why people learn to perform, why they dull their edges, why they say less than they think, why they nod instead of speak, why they choose acceptance over authenticity. Because the cost of being real is often isolation, instability, and loss. And here's the part people don't like to admit. Most people don't leave you because you are honest. They leave because your honesty makes their compromises harder to ignore. That's why being real feels less lonely, because it strips away relationships that were never built to survive truth. It removes you from spaces that depend on silence. It exposes how conditional acceptance really is. You are welcome as long as you don't disrupt, as long as you don't question, as long as you don't change too much. And once you realize that, you can't unsee it. You start noticing how many relationships are transactional, how many conversations are performances, how often people bond over avoidance instead of connection. And that awareness creates distance even when you don't want it to. You don't feel superior. You feel alienated, because being real doesn't make you special. It just makes you incompatible with systems built on pretending. And that's the trade-off no one prepares you for. Truth doesn't come with applause. It comes with silence, with space, with fewer people, with moments where you wonder if it would be easy to just go back to pretending. And sometimes it would be. But once you've seen the cost of lying to yourself, going back feels worse. So you stand there, with fewer friends, fewer invitations, but a clearer sense of who you are. And that clarity is heavy, because it doesn't protect you, it doesn't guarantee success, it doesn't make life easier, it just makes it honest. And honesty in a world built on comfort is disruptive by nature. If you've lost people by being real, you are not imagining it. You didn't fail. You didn't do it wrong. You simply stepped out of systems that weren't designed to keep people who refuse to perform. And that hurts. But at least now you know why. So if you felt this, if you've noticed friends drift, invitations stop, jobs shift, or because you chose to be real, know this. You are not imagining it. You didn't fail. You are simply paying the price for clarity in a world that often prefers comfort over honesty. It's uncomfortable, it's isolating, but it's real. And there's value in that, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. Go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more than you think. And if you want to see more of these raw, honest conversations, the ones that cut through the surface and talk about the truth no one else will, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to help this channel grow. Because these are the conversations we rarely have, but desperately need. And the more we face them, the less alone we feel. Stay aware, stay honest, and remember, the world may not reward truth, but it's still worth speaking.